everyone, and welcome to Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails, the weekly podcast that helps you grow your business, improve your life, and enjoy yourself along the way. I'm your host, Alan Langer, and every week we try to bring you the best thought leaders, the best business leaders, and the best minds out there to help you succeed in business and in life. So sit back, relax, grab your pad, your pen, and your favorite beverage, and enjoy the next episode of Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. This is episode 14, believe it or not. We are rolling along on this podcast, having a lot of fun. And tonight we've got another great guest. This one a little bit off the beaten path as far as marketing and sales, because he's going to take a little bit of a different approach and really help you with your communication. Before we get to that, I want to remind everyone of the Ask Alan segment of this podcast. Send me an email with one of your sales or marketing questions, or any question actually that you'd want to ask me at all. Send it to Alan, A-L-L-A-N, at allanger.com, A-L-L-A-N-G-E-R.com. Ask me the question. If we choose your question for tonight on the podcast, I send you a free signed autographed book. Okay? So we've got tonight.
Nice.
Yeah, you like that, right? So
oh, yeah.
He popped in before I even introduced him. So anyway, we got Michael Verret tonight. Okay, so Michael Verret, Verret, not Verret. He literally just told me how to say his name, and I
quite all right.
Michael Verret is he's a brand communication expert, and I'm going to have him explain to you what that actually means. But every time he talks, you're going to listen. He's like E.F. Hutton. Every time he says something, you're going to get a nugget out of it, because he really knows what he's talking about in helping you not only create a brand for yourself, but also really find what you're good at. And then having people and getting that out there so people understand what you're good at. And we were talking about this just a minute ago. So Michael Verret, welcome to the podcast. How you doing tonight?
Alan, I couldn't be better, my man. I know I'm supposed to bring my cocktail, so I did. It's in my commemorative 2007 Transformers Slurpee cup. I worked for Hasbro, that agency at the time. So I have a lot of odd memorabilia in the background. Like I have an authentic Indiana Jones fedora that I, can throw on just for entertainment value.
Yeah. Do you have the
like a really bad? That's none of your damn business, and I thank you to stay out of my affairs.
Well, I have a Manhattan, so again, welcome. Here's a virtual cheers for being on the podcast, and so let's get into this. To explain out to the audience what a brand communications expert is.
Okay, so the best thing for me to do is give you an example, all right? Mm-hmm. All of us go into business originally because we need to make money. But at some point, we have an idea that we want to express, right? And let's call it your passion. The challenge with that is, how do you communicate your passion in a way that your audience knows what that is, okay? So think about businesses that are constantly doing analysis to figure out how they talk about themselves in a way that their consumers will trust. What I help companies do is figure out, I work with a lot of small companies specifically because I feel, let's just say they're the most valuable. No, they're the most open to this because they started it and they have a vested interest. Right. I work with small businesses to help them identify and remember what the passion is that got them going there in the first place. What was the idea? What are they good at? And then help them get their business on track so they're talking to their audience on their terms and they're not talking about what they think their audience wants to hear. So much time is spent by companies with a great idea that comes from an unbelievable place. And then the way they communicate it is based on a system that they think the consumer wants to consume it in. The problem with that is the consumers call the shots now. Mm-hmm. So how does business evolve with that? And I'll give you an example of what I mean. You know what a brand archetype is, right?
Yes.
Okay. So for the longest time, and I was in the agency business for 15 or 20 years.
Why don't we explain that to the audience of what it is in case someone...
That's what I'm going to do.
Okay, cool.
For the longest time, businesses, when they needed to create a brand identity, they would ask the question, who are we or who am I? And an archetype is actually, you could think of it as almost like a constructed mythology, right? Where there's an archetype of a hero, and there's an archetype of a sage, wise man, and there's an archetype of a teacher. These are all basically personas that when businesses are trying to identify who they are to their consumer, they go through and say, this is what we want to be seen as. Okay. So to give you an example of a very real industry, let's take insurance. For the longest time, you name an insurance agency, an insurance company, and they all have a slogan that speaks to their being, right? Mm-hmm. So like a rock is maybe I can't remember what all of them are, but Liberty Mutual Insurance used to be the straight and narrow. And John Hancock is we're here for you, we'll help. And now Geico shows up. And Geico says we're the jester archetype. Our persona is comedy, it's humor, it's lightheartedness. And they create things like the caveman. So easy a caveman can do it. Or the raccoons or the woodchucks who chuck wood. Those are some of my favorite commercials, to the point where they are now taking boats and rerunning them and then doing sequels of them as their marketing. Mm-hmm. Okay? They came in as the jester. Now remember what I said. You have the hero, right? Like think Luke Skywalker as a business. Mm-hmm. That is an archetype. Think Optimus, I'm using the things that I know to explain it, but think Optimus Prime of the Transformers. Optimus Prime is a father figure, okay? He is an archetype of a father figure. These businesses spend all this time trying to figure out who they are. Along comes Geico. What do consumers do when they watch Geico?
What do they do? If they watch the commercial, they're probably...
What do they do?
They're going to enjoy it.
But how do they react? I'm sorry, how do they react? How do they react? Physiologically, what's the response? When you see something funny, okay, good. That is an amazing spot to have a consumer, don't you think?
Yep.
Have you ever gone to a cocktail party and somebody tells a joke that is so funny that you go and tell it?
Of course. There you go.
Okay, so humor is a basis for communication that every single human being in the world clings to as a way to feel good. Humor comes in different varieties. You have dry humor. You have my kind of humor, which is completely overwhelming and irreverent, but everybody responds to humor because it triggers a very simple response. Your face has muscles in it. Smiling uses a third of frowning of those muscles. Mm-hmm. It feels better to smile physiologically, but what it's doing inside is it's releasing a reaction. If you go to a funeral because somebody passed away, a reaction comes out. Okay? What Geico did was they figured out a fantastic reaction. They figured out how to make people laugh. Now, that was 25 years ago that they came into the market and started doing this? I want you to think of one insurance agency that doesn't use humor right now. Name one. I want your audience to write into you right now and tell me one insurance company that doesn't use humor.
Well, I just thought of 5 in my head and they all use humor. So you're right.
Yeah. The last man standing is Allstate.
Yeah.
You remember they have the president.
Yeah.
Spokesman.
Yep.
That has shifted to humor. Not him. He's still the same person, but the context of the commercial is now humor. Hey, it's the same 20% guy. Hey, it's the same.
Right.
Liberty Mutual has a goddamn emu. Running around in a bad Serpico-themed, art-treated. Now, I need somebody to tell me what business circumstance dictated that. What business process dictated that? Because I've been told my entire business career that there's a process and that you have to have an identity and you have to do consumer research. Mm-hmm. I do consumer research to validate that system, that process.
Right.
I'm not doing consumer research to validate what they want to hear.
Right.
Yes, this many respondents said this. And in my qualitative research, the focus group said this. So yes, we are the father figure archetype.
Right.
Great. That took 6 goddamn months and how much money? And now every one of those businesses had to recreate how they communicate, redefine how they communicate, because their audience calls the shot, not them. I don't give a shit what they stand for.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think they would have done that if Geico made a mistake in going with humor? Because Geico went out, Geico created that and everyone followed suit. So what was it that Geico saw that made them create that? Or was it just a brilliant marketing person that said, we need to use humor?
I think look, let's give credit where credit's due. There's always somebody with an idea, okay? Yeah, but it's not necessarily a brilliant marketing person. What it is what's everybody else doing and how do we do it different? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay? Exactly. Take that question that is asked all the time in business and now think about how they apply it. What can we do that's different to stand out? And then what's the system that we do it in? Okay, so we're going to do a media buy. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do that because that's how you market a product.
Right.
No, that's not how you market a product. And I think I told you this on the phone before. No matter what any company tells me about their marketing, we don't use a shotgun approach. We're more like a sniper. Right. We're very targeted. We're this and that. I will challenge every single word out of their mouth when I talk. And believe me, talking to me, you've done it, is not a business meeting. No, I don't have a business meeting with them because, because it's not about their business. It's about why they are in business. And they completely look past that once they start the business. They jump into a formula that they think moves it forward. Okay. So if you if you have the best idea in the world and you call it the wrong thing and market it the wrong way, nobody hears about it.
Right.
If you are one of everybody on LinkedIn doing the same thing, but you feel deep down inside that your service is better than any of the other ones because you know that what you do works, then why are you telling the same story in the same library as everybody else?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So in that regard, and you and I spoke about this, and there's a lot of people out there, there's a lot of solopreneurs listening who want to know how to increase their business. They want to know, they're all trying to figure out social media. They're saying, okay, I got to follow this guy. There's an ad every 10 seconds at this program and that program. And you're right. It sounds like these are all processes that may work, but you kind of almost like, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this to get my word out. And you kind of lose sight of yourself. And I'm thinking that's what you're saying.
I think you're losing sight of, yes. Look, we could get metaphysical, and I know I got really into it with you on the phone earlier today, but the truth is, every person is good at something for a reason. They have a skill set, but it's defined only by two things, and one is constant and one's a variable. No matter what, you can't change who you are and how you think, okay? Right. You have told me that you love to sit and listen to people, all right? And I've told you remind me of my wife. Now, there is not anything about you that reminds me of my wife physically or what you do or anything, but I happen to know that there are 4 types of personality, okay? And I can easily figure out where people sit in when they talk to me. I can use it and turn it into a parlor trick, but here's the reality. People have a way of doing things because that's how their mind processes information and puts it back out into the world. Okay. So like the salespeople example that I was talking to you before, you can have 4 different types of salespeople selling the exact same item, and they have 4 different styles, but the styles are based on how they think. It's not based on anything beyond that. Okay. Your style is so clear to me that I can sit and talk to you and I know that you have a solution. Okay. That's what I see Alan Langer as from a salesperson perspective. Okay. Now, I am throw a party. Let's go out for beers. Let's become best friends. Invite me to your wedding because we're so close and let's do something fun together. Okay? That's my way of doing it. Have you seen salespeople who walk in and say, you need what I've got? And if they say no, they say, okay, you're missing out. Do you know why they're missing out? I mean, do you know why that person thinks they're missing out? Because that person will run through walls and eat their young to close sale. The idea of finding their X, making calls to hit the nut is all they care about. The bottom line is what drives them. And their drive to achieve that bottom line is all that matters. That's a type A personality, okay? Then you have the person who says, okay, let's sit down. I'm going to write down everything you say. And then I'm going to go away it's going to take 2 weeks, but I'm going to put together this proposal that takes everything that you need into consideration. And I will give you a schedule and I'll give you the pricing and the billing and why we do it this way. And I'm sure you won't have any questions, but if you do, I'd prefer you call my support person because that's not good for me. Like that's a personality driver. That is somebody who is introverted and thinks numbers. Like think of an accountant and any accountant you've ever met. Okay. Can you imagine me as an accountant?
No, I would not trust you with
seriously.
my taxes.
Okay, good. So we're settled then. I would never be an accountant because it's not in here.
Right.
I can't process the information. I am not one of that 25% of brains that processes information.
Exactly. Right.
My brain works like this. Somebody would be smart enough, if they were a business consultant like me, to charge rent for space in their brain. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And a good consultant sends that monthly bill and says, here's September's bill, and you're going to live there in September. And this is how long you can use the house in September. And then I'll send you the bill for October. Okay. My mind, my space is not rented. My space is taken up by a bunch of friends who come sleep on the couch and we hang out together and figure out cool shit to do. Okay, that's how my mind works. I don't know how to charge. I don't know how to do that. Okay, that's not in my being. What I have to do is be comfortable with what I do. Okay, so go back to the salesperson example. If you are a salesperson who's good at listening and you encounter a customer who's good at talking, you've got the perfect fit. But how do you adapt that for yourself? How do you adapt that if you run into somebody who doesn't like talking?
Right.
Now you've got a personality conflict. Okay. So these are the barriers that I help people get over because it's all about human nature. It's all about two human beings making a connection and having a conversation. At the base of any sale, at the base of any marketing campaign, at the base of any business. It's people having a conversation about what they want to do. The decisions that are made are based on something that doesn't make sense. Business school. This is how it's done. Hiring an agency to do this and they tell you it takes this long and you say, okay, yeah, that sounds good. When at the end of the day, none of that might be true for your business.
Right.
Your business is driven by one thing and one thing only. Your passion for why you do it. Okay? So the easiest way to think about how to solve that problem and how to stay on one path is your elevator pitch. If I can sit with you and get you to talk about your business in a way that says who you are and why it's important to you, I will buy anything from you and you will figure out that one 15-second sentence defines the presentation that you give to the CEO of a company to close a sale. That's how simple it is. It's like in golf. There are 400 things that go into a golf swing. So people have what's called the swing thought. They have 1, 2, maybe 3 things that they think about. For me, it's balance, head down, follow through. Mm-hmm. My brain does the rest. Okay. Mm-hmm. If I have one thing to think about, my brain will fill in the other gaps. Meaning, if I'm only thinking about listening to people and helping them to find solutions to their problems, then I am never going to do anything from a marketing, product development, research, creative design. I don't care what it is. Distribution, you will no longer do anything contrary to that. You will save time. you will save money, and you will get a successful business out of it.
Mm-hmm.
The key is convincing people of that, because nobody wants to hear it. Think about the conversation you and I had.
Right. You're
How
right.
many times you were saying, yeah, but this, yeah, but that. And I kept saying to you, I don't care, because it's not germane to the conversation from what I do for a living.
Right.
What's germane to the conversation is why you got into this, and does your audience know why? That's it. Full stop. Because if I can convince them of that, you do the rest. I mean, if you can convince them of that, the rest is done for you. Think of talking about something you're passionate about. You can convince anybody to your side.
So you're so right about that. And you know, I tell my kids this a lot, and I have to remind myself of it. And that's why I wrote my book. It's like, you know, don't forget what makes your heart sing. You know, don't forget what when I made the decision, my book was in my brain for 4 or 5 years, sitting there.
Yeah, and you had to get it out.
And when I finally said that January 3rd of 2019, 2018, you know, I'm not feeling great right now in my life. I'm just floating along, like, you know, I'm letting the wind carry me. What makes my heart sing? And I realized writing makes my heart sing. I've been writing all my life. I haven't written in a long time. And I said, I'm going to write my effing book. And everything changed. Everything changed right there.
I can't even fathom. I would be so goddamn scared to make that commitment, Alan. I would be so scared. I'd be like, I can't do it because I don't like to write.
Right.
I write. I mean, look at, I'm going to show you something. This is a finished product in my mind. Can you see this?
So
this is a finished product. This is actually a full retail marketing program.
So for the folks who are listening,
in the world can read it.
Right. And for the folks who are listening, he just showed us about 10 sheets of paper that look like Einstein threw up all over them. So that's what it looked like.
It's disgusting. I mean, you could see I have an easy way to paint a picture for your audience listening is if you've seen the movie A Beautiful Mind.
Yes.
Where Russell Crowe is connecting everything with threads, and because he needs to do that. That's how he thinks. Okay. What I'm saying is the way we think has an amazing bearing on how we do business. Right. But we all put on the brakes and stop because we were told that's not how it's done. We were told if I want to go into business, I have to do A, B, and C. So the fact that you let go and did what you wanted to do and loved has defined your business. That was an epiphany for you, right?
It was an absolute epiphany. And it, even though it was really a serious, you know, major commitment of time, it was, in retrospect, and probably during, the easiest thing I ever committed to do, because I knew I was doing what I wanted to do. And what I knew that I should.
And what you know how to do.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
Something in us does that, Alan. So here's my story, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know shit about business. That's the first thing I'm going to tell you. I don't know business. But what I found out, and I only thought, like you, it happened in 2018, okay? I was at, my background is I was in advertising and marketing agency side for years, and I worked for Hasbro, Toys and Games. They hired me to be in-house account director for their ad agency. So I was working at Hasbro. I had access that ad agencies don't even know exists, okay? I was sitting in phase review meetings for products that were coming out in 3 years, and no ad agency sits in that. You know what I mean? So it was really a cool experience for me. But what happened was they really liked how I thought. So they hired me onto the marketing. And at first I thought I was in heaven. I was working on Transformers. I got to meet Peter Cullen, the voice of Optimus Prime. I mean, Optimus Prime, Larry Bird, my dad. There's my 3 heroes. So it was really a big deal for me. And then the veneer started to come off, and I realized, wait a second, I'm a product. What the hell is a product? And I learned through doing that a product manager works with numbers and timelines and X-factory costs and how do we move this entire thing forward, and they're constantly on top of things and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know any of it. But it's not that I don't know it. I can learn math like any other.
Right.
The problem is I don't have a math brain, or I don't have a process brain. I have a brain that looks like the piece of paper. I just like a beautiful mind. That's how my mind works.
Right.
I was put into an environment that I didn't know what I was doing. And I was miserable when I realized that what I'm doing, I don't like. And any 29-year-old MBA student who wants to get into corporate America could do it 5 times better.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward to 2017 at this point. 2017 is when I was realizing how miserable I was. And I was thrown, call it an extra life. We had our sales meeting and I was working on Hasbro gaming. And we had every single member of the marketing team coming into the United States, and there's 7 presentations. Each one is the exact same, and they're 3.5 hours. And you have different audiences. You have Europe for 2 sessions, and you have Latin America, and then you have Asia, and all of these groups coming in. So I sort of usurped creative control of how we did the presentation. And it was inadvertent, but it was a situation I found like, okay, we have a chance to do something a little bit different and stand out. And that's what gaming's about, giving people a feeling. So how do we do this? So I stumbled upon a model that I didn't know worked, where we turned it into basically what amounted to me as Jimmy Fallon on a 4-hour episode of The Tonight Show, but we took out all the interview bullshit and just played games. Okay? Mm-hmm. We brought people up and played life-size versions of the game. And the expression that they had afterwards was any 5-year-old who saw a puppy. Mm-hmm. They remembered what it was like to be a child. Mm-hmm. I realized that on day 1, that it works. The end of day 2, the senior VP said, I'm changing your job. And I became the face of Hasbro Gaming. Now, you were talking about a person who has debilitating social anxiety. I feel like I always have to be somebody else. Mm-hmm. And it's like armor, right? I need to act a certain way because I feel like that's what I have to do because frankly, I'm just anxious and I don't want to be at a cocktail. Okay. I'm perfectly fine at a cocktail party, but my mind isn't.
Right.
So I'm dealing with all this stuff. I'm the socially anxious person. And I'm being asked to fly around the world to Hong Kong, India, Dubai, Brazil, the UK, Germany, and present to audiences from 20 to 10,000.
Wow.
Holy. I knocked it out of the goddamn park. I left every single audience speechless, and it was the best feeling in the world. Frankly, whether the numbers went up is irrelevant. How I felt was based on the reaction I got from my audience.
Right.
I'm like, holy shit. So I had to figure out why that works. Now it's crawling. It's like, this is weird. How come? And what I stumbled upon was, I understand people. I understand an audience. I understand that when Latin America comes in, I am predisposed to understand that they are going to be a raucous bunch of lunatics and bounce off the walls. And so the way I communicate with them has to take that into consideration. Mm-hmm. And if I know what my audience is doing at all times, I'm no longer worried about what I'm doing. Holy shit. This is weird. I'm a socially anxious person in front of 10,000 people playing them like a harmonica. So what the hell changed? What happened? I realized that I understand how people think. I realized that I understand how people react to things. I realized that I understand how people process information. I realized that I have the ability to set somebody up to hear with an idea and drop them down to the ground at 400 miles an hour with the next words out of my mouth. That's what I know how to do. That's it. You're seeing it in action right now. I don't have a script.
Right.
I know how to communicate with people, and I know how to do it in a way that says, oh, okay, I get it. Simplicity. I learned that when I was 12. We were driving on the highway, going to Home Depot. My father was rip shit because we had a leak in the roof. We drove by a sign that said, roof leaking, call us. He pulled over to payphone and called him and drove home. He was in a need state. He was in an emotional state. And the answer was given to him in 2 words, Alan.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, how much research do you think that local roofing company had to do to figure that out? None is the answer. 0. Here's what we do if you have this problem, call. And they put it on a highway.
Here's the problem we solve.
I could put a billboard up there that says a bunch of stuff, but if it's not what the audience wants to hear, what difference does it make?
Right. Or if it's not,
doesn't matter. I can market the exactly.
Yeah, like
so
you and
fast
I.
Forward, yeah, go ahead.
No, I drive by billboards and signs in airports all the time, and I'm like, that's a waste of money. That's a waste of money. Wow, who thought of that? Brilliant, stupid. Nothing. It's just wasting money because for so many reasons. You're right. You're 100% right.
So imagine somebody who looks like me wearing a sun shirt and Oakley glasses, and I have a baseball hat on, saying you are wasting all of your money. Like, what do you do if you're a business owner and somebody comes and says that to you? Do you think you're an asshole? If that guy's an asshole, throw him out? Do you think, what is he talking? Mm-hmm. Now, if I said, why did you get into this business? They said, well, because this and this and this. Does your audience know that? Well, yeah. How? I market myself through this, this, and this. What does that say about why you got into your business? You know what? I didn't think about it. Mm-hmm. I can work with a PR person who's one of 400 PR people. Say, what are you good at? And that person says, I love to write. I'm good at writing and telling a story through words. I've always loved it. I said, so you started a PR agent? I said, yeah. I said, I looked at your website. You know what it says? You're a PR agent. Guess how many PR agencies say that? Every single one. What if your website says, you've got a story to tell. I will help you choose the words.
There you go.
The roof is leaking. Roof leaking? Call. I can't get my story out. This person can help me do it. They just said it in 7 words. I don't need to read another word.
Right.
You know, people hire like this too. The average time that somebody looks at a resume is 6 to 8 seconds.
Yeah. When
they're hiring. How much time do people spend writing their accomplishments on their resume? Every single one of us. But if people spent 20 minutes writing a sentence that told them who they are at the top of the resume, everything else falls into place.
Yes, everything changes.
The person who's reading it stops dead.
Right.
So to bring it all full circle, Alan, is I work with businesses that have a dream, a mission, a passion, a reason why they do what they do to make sure their audience knows what that is. And once they uncover that, it informs how they market themselves. It informs how they develop their product. It informs how they talk about their business. So identifying that is inherent to succeeding for your business, because otherwise you're an also-ran. You are another company with a service.
And you're part of the,
that's it.
And you're part of the noise that's out there. There's so much noise out there. Prior to COVID, there wasn't as much noise prior to COVID as there is now. COVID changed the whole.
Oh God, no. On
the online stuff.
Yeah. I'll put it this way, buddy. You and I probably wouldn't be talking on a podcast right now.
You are 1,000% correct.
It changed fundamentally how we feel we have to market ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, before COVID, I think I told you this, I had 7 speaking gigs ready to go. And I got clients.
I have 3 open contracts.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, now I don't have any speaking gigs. Holy crap. I got to figure out a way to get some clients. And 6 months later, here we are. So, but I think it's all for good. I mean, things happen for a reason. And I think it's all for the good. But what you were saying about that clarity is so important, because I talk about that in marketing materials and websites. Exactly. It's the same exact thing on a website. People look at a website for 6 to 8 seconds and they're gone. If it doesn't say,
what I want, no, gone.
If it has a picture of a mountain and it says, hey, there's some convoluted sentence, and then at the bottom of the website it talks about roofing, you're gone already. So I can't emphasize, whoever's listening, I can't emphasize that enough, is clarity. Just say what you do and who you are. That's it. The rest falls into place. I mean, you and I are such an alignment.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, think about it. If you're you presenting to an audience, you're your most comfortable. If you're
100%.
being you, having a conversation the way that you talk, if you write a presentation the way that you think and communicate, you're not going to have anxiety over it.
Right.
It's easy.
Right.
Think about this, Alan. The reason we are talking was a need to figure out something new. We are talking on a podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many other podcasts were born at this time?
How many other podcasts were what? You broke up there.
I'm sorry. How many other podcasts were born of the pandemic?
Oh, probably quite a few.
Right. So how are you going to stand out? You got to keep doing what you do best, but you need to do it in a new paradigm. Podcasts can absolutely be the answer, but if your audience doesn't know why you're doing it and what you have to say, nobody's going to listen. They're going to think you're a podcast.
Right.
You know, your Ask Alan segment. I think I've mentioned this to you before. I love that because people come to you and you listen and give them a real solution.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a podcast in itself. Welcome to the Ask Alan podcast. You no longer have guests like me, although trust me, I would love to do this for 5-6 days a week. You no longer have guests like me. You have people calling into you on your podcast with their problems and you listen and administer a solution. Now, that's not a shotgun approach. That's not a sniper rifle approach. I've told you this, that is a strategic drone strike of an approach from somebody who didn't go to college, piloting it in Colorado and hitting a target a foot wide across the world. That's how accurate your marketing, your messaging, and your selling becomes once you come to terms with this.
Right. Well, this is an unbelievable segue to the Ask Alan segment because the question I got this week comes from Joseph, and he is up in Poughkeepsie, New York. So we got someone from Poughkeepsie logging in. Thank you for
Po-Town, baby, Po-Town.
Po-Town. So Joseph, thanks for listening. And he writes, what can I do on my LinkedIn profile to make me stand out? So I'm going to answer that. I'm going to let
wait to hear this.
No, I'm going to answer that first, and you can put your 2 cents in. And it really is, you know, if you listen to this podcast, what we just said is really what you need to do. You need to be extremely clear. I see so many LinkedIn profiles. In fact, the majority of LinkedIn profiles suck. Just to be perfectly blunt and honest, they suck. I look at it, and a LinkedIn profile, you're even looking at it quicker than you are with a website. You look at it for 4 seconds, and if you can't figure out what that guy does, or you saw something, let's say you saw a post, and you're like, I want to check this guy out. You check him out, and I can't figure out what he does. In 4 seconds, I'm gone. I'm not connecting with him. And you need to say exactly what you do, or the problem you solve. One or the other, roof leak, call us, in your header. That's going to capture me, and that's going to move me down your profile for a few more seconds to answer that question. So if you're an insurance agent, don't just be, I hate when I see Liberty Mutual insurance agent. That's the top of the header. I mean, can you be any more boring than that? And no deference to Liberty Mutual, but you get my point. If you said, I fix your broken car, something like that, that's going to make you stand out than the other 100 insurance agents that are out there for car insurance. Would you agree?
Yep. Oh God. I don't even you're spot on. What's this gentleman's name again?
I don't have his last name, but Joseph. I didn't write his last name down. I have it on email. Joseph from Poughkeepsie.
Joseph from Poughkeepsie. Okay, so here's your challenge.
A Dear Abby episode right now.
Yeah, here's your challenge, Joseph. You're being tasked in your mind to figure out how to talk about yourself on LinkedIn, and every single person on LinkedIn is tasked with the same challenge. So you are one of millions.
650 million on LinkedIn right now.
Yep. And now let's boil it down to whatever you do for a living. Let's say cut that to a 10% number. And now you're talking about 6.5 million people just like you struggling with the same problem. Mm-hmm. Here's the problem with LinkedIn. You're operating in a construct that doesn't allow anybody to know what you do. What if I told you that?
Tell me what you mean.
It is a construct that says, okay, It has my name. It has a picture. It has a place where I have to express myself and close the deal. And I can post content and all of that, but like we determined, the profiles as far as they go. I'm working within a predetermined system of how I communicate within LinkedIn. Okay. What if, Joseph, you were to say something to the effect of, LinkedIn can't contain what I can do for you. Click here. And think about what that does to the person reading it. Now, we determined that it's 6.5 million people doing exactly what you're doing right now. How do I write my LinkedIn profile? So how do you be 1 in 6.5 million is what you're asking. Okay. That's what your challenge is. No one has ever read LinkedIn profiles and seen anything like that. You know why? Because there's a system that you're supposed to follow on LinkedIn to communicate what you do.
Right.
And before anybody challenges this, every single one of us has been subjected to. This is what it has to say. This is what the call to action is. This is where you put your picture. Every single one of us have been told that. We're all being told the same story and what to do. Mm-hmm. Alan, you're doing a podcast because that's what you were told will work or what you should do. Okay? Joseph, screw it. Think about LinkedIn as a point to cause disruption. It is not about being one of many. It is about getting people to read through many and saying, holy shit, I've never read that.
Right.
Okay? That is what you're up against. Forget what you do for a living for a minute and think about the audience that you're talking to. How do you talk to that audience at that time? Go back to the roof is leaking. That is abrupt, sudden, and solves a problem. Joseph, you need to be abrupt, sudden, and solve a problem to stand out on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Figure out how to do that. Reinvent how you talk about yourself. Think about the first person who ever created a resume that included graphic design. Why did they do that? Because they wanted to show what they can do. They wanted to show what's important. If something is important to you, Joseph, tell them that in your profile. What's important to you? How do you operate for your audience? If you can accomplish that, you're going to increase your sales.
Right. And they need to see that. There's a two-part answer to this. What Michael just said and what I said, you said it in more in-depth than I did. Once your profile,
you said the exact same thing, Alan. Same thing.
But you said it in a way that brought me to the point, like, now this profile is like, holy shit, this is nothing like I've ever seen. Now they're going to connect with you, which is where the engagement starts. But then the second part of this is, and this is what you and I have been talking about, is the content that you start to engage with or put on LinkedIn needs to be your authenticity. It can't just. It
needs to be you doing what you do.
Exactly.
Not telling people what you do, doing what you do.
Exactly.
That's the key difference.
Yes.
LinkedIn. Here's the secret about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is amazing for business because it's the only social network with one purpose and one purpose only: to meet people to do business.
Right.
It is the Tinder of business.
Yes, it is.
That's it. Start thinking about it that way for a second. What they've created is a new format for your business resume.
Right.
What you do in business is effectively a resume. Okay. They've given you a construct for a resume to work with. Now, if you talk to anybody who's writing their resume, the first thing you tell them is you got to stand out and show what's unique about it.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
A lot of people interpret that as I have to explain myself or whatever. But somebody had the idea of saying, I'm a graphic designer, I'm doing it this way, and boom, resumes became a whole new thing. Mm-hmm. That hasn't happened on LinkedIn yet, Al. Mm-hmm. Nobody has figured out the creative way to use their LinkedIn resume. And when I say resume, I'm not talking about job search. I'm talking about your business. This is your resume for what you do for a living.
Right.
It is not, that's all it is. And that's what you have to come to terms with. All of you have to come to terms with about LinkedIn. It's nothing more than that. It's not a magic bullet. It is a place where you post your resume.
Right. But not
your resume happens to be, no, your resume, your business resume, if you will. I'm sorry, I'm mixing metaphors a little bit, but your LinkedIn is your opportunity to tell people why you're important to their business. Okay?
LinkedIn is your elevator.
Exactly like if you're applying for a job. Yes, it is. So if everybody's doing the same thing and everybody's being told this is your elevator pitch, now I've given you a set of circumstances to think about disrupting. Mm-hmm. I've given you a very specific thing to focus on and a singular purpose. How do I disrupt? That is the question everybody should be asking on LinkedIn.
Yep.
But our tendency to disrupt is also systemic. Our tendency is, I'm going to disrupt through a podcast. I'm going to disrupt through this. I'm going to disrupt through direct mail. None of that talks about what you do and why you do it. So why are you spending money on it?
Right.
It's a question of focus. It's a question of understanding the one thing that you do well and only doing that for the rest of your life as your career. That sounds like an amazing dream, right? All of us feel like we're stuck in a system where someday I'm going to do that. Someday I'm going to open a surf shop. Someday I'm going to have this business. Someday I'm going to have that. But for now, I work in this job. We all have something we want to be doing that's not work. Okay. Work is work. Fun is fun. It's not, that's two separations, right? We all have something else we want to be doing, but we're doing it in a way that was dictated to us that doesn't allow us to stand out. That is the biggest challenge to every single business. It's challenging the system. It's challenging what you're being told you're supposed to do. I like to talk to people and hear about what they do and spin creative solutions to their problems. That's what I like to do. I like to spend 2 hours talking to somebody on a phone. Mm-hmm. So that's what I do now for a career, Alan. Mm-hmm. I talk to people and I help them solve their problem the way that I know how.
Right.
What that does is leaves an indelible mark in them of, I met someone different who does it differently. And their first inclination is, holy shit, you've got to meet this guy.
Right.
It is the equivalent of biting into the best slice of pizza and turning to the person saying, oh my God, you have to try this. That is all I care about, is eliciting that response from my audience. I have one singular purpose, one thing I want to do. And I'm not letting it get in the way of how I market my business.
And that
if you sleep on that and think about it, if your listeners sleep on that and think about it, they are going to wake up tomorrow morning and say, holy shit, I'm doing all these things that I'm supposed to do to run a business, and it's taking away from me doing the one thing that'll make my business successful.
Right.
Marketing is a bitch. Sales is a bitch, because it makes us do things that are antithetical to how we want to do them, but we do them because we think it's a necessary evil. If you can do what you're good at and people see that you're good at, you're the only one who can do that. You are already unique. They are going to think of you every time because you stand out, because you did the one thing that they can't do, what you are good at.
And
like I said, you listen to those problems. What the hell else do you have to do?
Right.
You believe in it so much, and it's one singular purpose, that all of a sudden you're going to say, all I need to do is this clever little program on Instagram, and I'm getting 60 calls a day. Mm-hmm. You're not a genius. You're not a social influencer. You landed on telling people the world what you can do and doing it and showing them and affecting change in other people. Mm-hmm. That is ultimately, at the end of the day, why the hell would somebody start a company? Why? It's the worst experience I've ever had. I hate it. But the parts I hate, I don't do. I have somebody help me understand how to do it. I don't try to take it on myself, because that takes away from the one thing I'm good at, which is talking to other people about their business and showing them how they can make it the business they want it to be.
Well, on that note, as you said, at the end of the day, we are at the end of the podcast, unfortunately. And I think that Michael can talk for another 2 hours happily and give us some.
I'm sorry, Alan.
Don't be sorry.
Like
you know what? I knew
it's who I am. It's who I am.
And I expected. You are so on point with everything, and this is really good stuff. I think a lot of hopefully there were a lot of business owners listening tonight, because this is stuff that's going to make them, like you said, go to bed at night and wake up tomorrow morning and say, "Holy shit, what am I doing? I need to fix this."
And Alan, can I say one thing?
You got 30 seconds.
Alan has created a networking group online that is fascinating to me, because he has rallied people around this idea of connection and connecting for the common purpose of doing business. Alan doesn't know is that he's helping everybody tremendously just by letting them talk about their stuff that they do. Okay. And I'm not talking about this is what I do. I'm talking about here's things that I need to challenge for my business. How can you guys help me? Alan has created a feedback of experts that just want to help each other. And they're not trying to close a sale. They're not trying to do any of that. It's a conversation group, and it's called PDP. Play Don't Pause.
Yep.
I encourage you to email Alan and ask if you could become a member and see what Alan can do. Because I'm telling you, you haven't met anyone who does what he does the way he does it. And you won't know until you talk to him.
All right, Michael. Well, another great segue. You're Mr. Segue tonight. But so my email is Alan, ALLAN, at ALLanger, ALLANGER.com. Send me a question. That was a great question by Joseph tonight. One of the better ones we've gotten. Because I know
the question.
Yeah, and I know that answer really helped a lot of people, including Joseph. So send in your questions. Joseph's going to get a free book from me. And Michael, I can't thank you enough. And when I get back from camping, I'm heading camping tomorrow morning for about 5 days. We are going to meet for coffee, and we're going to talk further about the stuff we were talking about this afternoon. So
great. Now we're going to have to spend part of the time. Now we're going to have to spend part of that coffee talking about how much I hate camping and why. So sorry, I'm a sharer. Alan, I want to thank you very much. This has been let's call it cathartic for me too. Just being able to sort of get what's in my head out. Nobody's ever asked me to be on a podcast before.
Well, you should be.
It's really
good.
Well, thank you. But I love talking to people about it, and it's what I'm good at. You are good at listening to this stuff and figuring out how to assimilate it. So I hope you keep doing that. And
if folks want to find Michael, it's Michael Verret. Michael, as you would normally spell it, and then V as in Victor, ERRET as in Tom. Michael Verret. You'll find him on LinkedIn.
And you can email me too, Alan. It's Mike at VerretandAssociates.com.
VerretandAssociates.com. So, Michael, thank you again, and we're going to say goodnight. Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. This was episode 14. Really great. I hope you got a lot out of it. And we've got some great guests coming up as well. So stay tuned. We drop this every Wednesday late morning. So Wednesday mornings you'll have the podcast. And again, Michael, thanks for joining us. This has been Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails, and we will see you next time.